It was a big struggle in the beginning, and I just thought I went through it because I feel like that's kind of helped me get to where I am today. I just had the desire for so long, really have that burning desire to do everything it takes to achieve our goal. Business needs to work for us, not us for our business. Basically work backwards and figure out how to achieve it. I feel like I'm so passionate about it now because in the beginning I didn't have the goals. Life, the obstacles that life throws at you, you got to go above, under, through, do whatever. You got to be all in.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. I'm Kelsey Osh, I'm with Lift Auto Repair Marketing, and today we have an amazing guest. We have Travis Leavitt out of Layton, Utah. Runs two shops, Leavitt Automotive, as well as Cutting Edge Auto Care. So Travis, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so as we get, obviously we're going to be digging into a few different topics today, but just to kind of level set and give the audience a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get started into automotive?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to do something on my own. I've always had that entrepreneur mindset, but I never knew what I wanted to do. I had an interest in cars. I tried to do stuff on my own during high school. I took all the automotive programs they had. And then, a couple years after high school, I ended up getting a job at a tire store as a service advisor. So that was kind of my first job into it. And then I worked several other jobs as a technician, service advisor, manager. But, I had the realization, what am I going to do with my life? I was in my 30s at the time, and I needed to do something. Like I said, I always wanted to do something on my own. So I was like, well, this is what I have the most experience doing. Why not just open up a shop? But before that, though, the last shop I was at, he actually made me manager with the intent to take over the shop when he retired. But it wasn't going to be for like 7 years from then. And I didn't want to wait. I wanted to do it now. I felt like the clock was ticking. I was ready. Well, I thought I was ready. Anyways, so I actually tried to buy it from him, soon after that, and he said no, he wasn't ready. And so then my mind just started doing its thing, and here we are. I started the first shop, Leavitt Automotive, in Logan, Utah, just over 6.5 years ago, and then just acquired the second location in Clearfield, Utah last October, which is Cutting Edge Auto Care. That's kind of a real rundown. I'm sure we'll go through more of the details and nitty gritty here in a little bit, but
absolutely, yeah. I just realized I think I said Layton instead of Logan, so that's
Layton's close to Clearfield, so
yeah. Getting all the city names confused. It's not like I live here or anything like that. but awesome, yeah. I mean, obviously you've had an amazing journey of a common one that we've heard of before. Obviously, was someone starting in one of the either a tech in the back or an advisor in the front, and then kind of progressing from there and feeling like, I want to start my own thing. And so, what gave you that courage to finally do it? You know what I mean? I think that's the hardest hurdle for some individuals, I think. And not everyone that listens to this podcast is an owner. Some people are people that are in the shop. And so what helped you kind of cross that barrier?
I don't know if there's any one specific thing. Like I said, I just had the desire for so long, and I felt like the clock was ticking. I wasn't getting any younger. I was almost my mid-30s. And so I don't think there's any one thing. I just said I need to do something. If I'm going to do something, I need to do it now. And so I took the plunge. I mean, at the time I had 3 kids. I was married. I was making what I thought at the time was good money. In reality, it wasn't. I had benefits and everything. And I took the plunge and the risk and went all in. It was definitely hard. It had its moments, but I'm glad I did it. I don't know. I think just the inside me, it just seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously you took the leap and things started. And you had certain goals and kind of dreams for yourself and what that created. What I know you're a big goal person, which I know we're going to dig into a lot today. But what sort of helped you create your first sort of goals for the shop? Were you good? I guess let's take a step back. Were you good about creating goals right away, or did it kind of take time?
No, that's why I feel like I'm so passionate about it now, because in the beginning I didn't have the goals. The only goal I had was I wanted to own a shop. But at the time, my plan was to basically be there all day long running the front and have other people in the back. That was my plan. I
Yeah.
basically bought myself a job. And at the time, I was okay with it. I just thought that's how it was.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't realize up until a couple of years ago the full potential um, of what the shop could do and how it can change our lives, financially and then with time freedom and everything else. So yeah, I've had last couple of years have been really eye opening with everything. But like I said, I feel like that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I didn't have that in the beginning. I just, yeah, I don't know. It was a big struggle in the beginning, and I just, I'm glad I went through it, because I feel like that's kind of helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah.
But I just never knew the full potential of what my shop could do, let alone this industry could do. Because I mean, on average, the average shop in the United States only nets 4 to 6%, and so before I opened the shop, I did the research, and that's what the research showed, and so I just thought that's kind of what it would be. And the shop I was working at previously, that's about where they fell into. So I just thought that was the norm. I never knew there was all this possibly 20% plus net. I didn't know it could provide the lifestyle that I want. I didn't know that it could give me the freedom, the time freedom I want to go travel and all this stuff. So it's been pretty eye opening, especially the last couple of years, actually realizing that that's what this shop could do for me and my family.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I guess what made you feel like, you know what, I need to set a goal today? Was it just like one epiphany one morning you woke up? Was it something you listened to, something you read? What helped foster that change?
Um, Honestly, I feel like the goal setting portion of it, kind of thinking about your vision of what you want, the big picture and all that, was actually with a coaching company that I have. And that was one of the classes they taught is about that. And it was pretty eye opening, and it
Mm,
stuck with me ever since. And it was probably a couple years ago. But the, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that goes with it too, just at the end of the day, business needs to work for us, not us work for our business. Business is hard. Being an owner is hard. We assume all the risks, the liability, and everything else. We stress about it, have the anxiety about it. Takes a lot of our time, takes our time away from our family and everything like that. So why not make it work for us? And obviously we all have different goals and vision and a big picture. But I mean, I'm sure we all have different ones. Some don't even have it, as I didn't in the beginning. So we really need to dial in and figure out what that is. And then once you do, you know, at that point, you can basically work backwards and figure out how to achieve it and make the shop work for you or your business, or um, because ultimately that's what it should be doing.
yeah. And so did it start off where you wrote down like say a 1 year goal and worked your way back from there? Did you start bigger than that? Like where I guess describe where it started. Is
So yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I didn't have any of that first couple years. I mean, I was just in survival mode.
yep.
I was just trying. I mean, I was living off credit cards, personal and business, and for a couple of years, and then I would pay down the debt, and then started making a little bit of money, um, and so it was the last couple of years I really started to think about what I want out of my life and the lifestyle that I want to create for
Mhm.
my family and I. And it's like, I'm thinking about, okay, what kind of house do we have? What kind of cars do we want to have? What kind of um, time freedom do we want to have? What kind of just all these different things. And, you know, once I figured out kind of what I wanted, I'm like, okay, let's work backwards to get there. You know, if we're not getting any younger, time at sea. I was just talking to the tech today that this month's just flown by, but it's not just this month. It's every month, every day. It's just flying by. So, there's no time to wait. We need to take action now. And I lost my train of thought where I was going with all this.
No worries. But
Um,
in terms of like, say, some examples of what you've written down in terms of the goals, is it always like a number driven sort of goal?
oh, no. So definitely numbers are important. I have a lot of those. But it's not just that. It's could be things that aren't number related, like where do I want to travel? What do I want to do with my kids? How much time do I want to spend with my kids? So it doesn't just have to be number related. It could be anything you really want out of life. And so I think it's just the important thing is to think about it, create that vision in your head, and just figure out what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, how are you going to get there? I kind of think like goals are, I don't know, it's kind of like a roadmap. If you're trying to travel across country, you don't have, if you have a map, you can get there faster.
Hmm.
It's going to tell you where to turn, do this and that. But if you don't have goals in life or your business, it's like you just try to figure things out. You don't have that roadmap to get where you want to go. Yeah, you might get there eventually, but you probably get there a lot faster if you have a goal. But it's more than just setting the goal too. It's everybody can say, "Oh yeah, I want to hit $5 million in sales with my shop," but it's like if you don't do anything about it, put anything into action, work backwards on how to figure out how to get there, it's just a wish. It's not a goal.
100%.
So, I mean, there's, you got to think about what you want, the goals, the vision. You got to make the decision that you're going to take action, and then you got to execute. And I feel like execution is the hardest part for the majority of everybody. And
Yeah.
that's where you have to really have that burning desire to do anything it takes, to do everything it takes to achieve your goal. You gotta whatever the obstacles that life throws at you. I mean, you got to go above, under, through, and do whatever. You got to be all in and just give it everything you got because life's always handing us obstacles. So you just got to push through and give it everything. And also the thing that makes I feel like the people that are successful different from the people who are not successful is that successful people take action. They have that burning desire. They're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to do all these things to reach their goals, whereas other people aren't. It starts to get hard and they give up and they just well, it was a good try. So
Yeah, I think how do you go about making it not like a New Year's resolution in the sense of like some people make New Year's resolutions and it fails within the month. Like majority of the time, people just they stop. So what do you feel has enabled you to keep progressing in terms of the goals, actually achieving it, that execution, like you talked about, like what has allowed that?
I think the biggest thing for me is just having that vision, having that vision be super clear of what I want.
Hmm.
And if I have a strong enough why, then I'm going to give it everything I have. If I really in life I want to be able to have that time of financial freedom to be able to do what I want when I want. If I have a big enough desire to achieve that, then I'm going to put forth that much more effort to get it. And so for me, I just keep thinking about what I want and why I want it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think like for me, I always like goals are like, is this hokey thing? Like why would people make goals? Like it like yes, I have a goal for myself, but why do I need to write it down? Like something as simple as that. And there's so many studies that shows like again the difference between this like making a goal in your mind versus like writing it down and visually seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the a game changing thing for me was I listened to a podcast on it was the Bigger Pockets podcast, and they had a couple on there. One of them is like a author of this book called The One Thing here. He's like a really successful realtor. But him and his wife would always do a retreat at the end of every year. And I was like listening to the podcast, they would do a retreat. and they would both go and they would a whole day they would spend just literally making goals. So start off of big dreams, 5 year goal, 1 year goal, monthly goal, daily goal. Like it would just kind of like it would keep like working its way down. And then after that day of goal setting, they would have like a fun day. They would just kind of like celebrate the year that they had. And it might have been flip flops, vice versa. I don't remember which order it actually was in. But like I remember hearing this and I was like, that's so cool. Like I really want to try doing that. And so my wife and I immediately I told her about this on that was when this is when I worked corporate. I had to drive into work every day, and I told her about this. I was like we should do something like this. I think we need to. And that was like before we even started the business. And I was like, I want to try this and see what it does. And like literally every single day, I like write down goals now. It's up like what I need to achieve that day. That helps me achieve the monthly goals. That helps me achieve the 1 year goals. It just kind of has that train effect. And I'm just like, it's been life changing for me. So I know kind of similar situation for yourself, like to you, where I didn't believe in it, and then I started it, and like, holy moly, like why have I been waiting so long in terms of starting goals? So like, yeah, like for those that maybe haven't started, like, where would you say that they should start? Should they just go grab a piece of paper and grab a pencil and start writing, or what do you think?
I think it starts in the mind, in the head, just really thinking about what you really want, out of life or out of your business. Do you want to, if you're the owner of the business, and do you want to be a one man band? Do you want to have that time of financial freedom? Do you want to get out of the day to day? Do you want to be able to travel? Do you want to, just really think about what you want in business and personal? And then from there, write it down, create a vision board, any of those things, so you can, and then reflect back often. And but it's more than just setting the goal too and executing. You gotta kind of track it, every week, month, whatever. You gotta kind of go back and be like, okay, how am I doing? Am I am I getting closer to my goal? Am I not? And then if you're not, then why? Just like, it's easier with the shop and the numbers. We have certain software and reporting and stuff, so we can look at numbers often.
Mhm.
And if we're not hitting our numbers, then we basically go back and look and see why not. And if we did hit it, then hey, why did we hit it? What did we do good?
Yeah.
So we always have to be kind of looking back and, you know, track it, inspect what we expect, and all those things. But, I think it is important to do you have these big goals. If you just say this big goal, hey, I want to do $5 million in my shop this year. I mean, that seems crazy and huge, but if you break it down, okay, well, this is what I need to do monthly, weekly, daily. It makes it seem more realistic,
Hmm.
versus just this crazy $5 million goal, or whatever. That, hey, I want to travel to Europe or something. Hey, this is just kind of come up with baby steps to be able to get there. Because sometimes that big goal at the end is kind of just daunting because it's so big. But with goals too, there's different kinds. There's this, and I know there's a lot of different books on this, and a lot of people have different opinions on it. But there's just the regular goals, just the kind that are you know easier to achieve, and
Hmm.
things like that. But then there's a lot of books from like 10x is easier than 2x that talk about these 10x goals. And honestly, I kind of fall in the middle. I'm a believer in both, because like the 10x goals, obviously, if you have the 10x goals that are just crazy goals, you typically put forth 10 times the effort to get it. You
Yeah.
cut out distractions, you free up time, you do whatever you have to do to achieve those. And then even if you don't achieve them, you typically are further along than you would have been if you just set a smaller goal. But sometimes if you never achieve that goal, it can get depressing. You can get frustrated and things like that. So I think it's important to have wins. So you need to create some more realistic goals too, to where you can have those wins. And then if it's a shop goal, share those wins with your team. And then let the team know that you have these goals too.
Yes,
Hey, these are the
exactly.
goals. This, what do y'all think? Or even have them give their input, because if they're they're giving their input, they're bought in, they're more inclined to try to, reach those goals as well. So if you set these smaller goals, yeah, you'll have more wins. But I think ultimately, like these 10x goals, I mean, you figure out a way to do it. You're like, oh, okay, I can't be doing this anymore. I can't do that anymore. You focus on the things you need to do to get you to your goal, your 10x goal.
Yeah. And so and I've even been to your shop where, like, and for those that obviously haven't, um, Travis has it written on some of the boards in the shop in terms of like the goal of the month of like the revenue marker. And that way the team is understanding, like, again, that progression. Because it's one thing to make goals for yourself, which I think that's where it needs to start. But now if you're as a shop owner, as a leader of the shop, you need to have goals for the company. And there needs to be something that is driving them visually. Like it's one thing to talk about, yes, this is where we want the company to go, yada yada yada. But if it's like if a lot of people learn visually these days, especially, like, I mean, everyone just stares at their phone, and so that's obviously a bit visual. And so, like, there needs to be something that they can constantly look at within the shop that shows them, like, how well their performance is doing. And if it's not there, it's not there, and you have to make sure you're aware and letting them know what can we do better to improve those things. But I think that's a huge thing, that, like, when people embark upon doing goals, that they don't share it. There isn't another person holding them accountable.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have, like I said, to have them give their input on the goals. What do they think? What do they think we could do? What should our goals be? So like I said, I feel like they're going to be more bought in. It's like my first shop. Unfortunately, they're the people I have here. They're a great team and everything, but they've never been goal people. They never really set goals in their lives and everything. So I've been trying to change their mindset of not only setting goals for here at the shop, but also in their personal lives. And so, just like you said, at the first shop, we actually have a little whiteboard and they'll adjust it every week. And some of the techs care about it more than others, but they sit there and we'll look how close we are to getting the goal. And the one tech in particular, he gets super excited if we're right there. And it just almost changes the mindset. They like flip a switch, or right, they're trying to try to put forth a little more effort to try to reach that goal. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you have your team bought in, it makes it a lot easier than it just being just your goal. It's everyone's goal.
Yep. No, absolutely. And you mentioned, like, a few good nuggets there in terms of, I heard the word adjusting, which we'll definitely want to talk about. But also, you mentioned earlier in terms of celebrating wins. Like, I think that's one thing people are also, I mean, especially as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're always like, okay, what is the next goal? What is the next goal? We forget to recognize what an amazing accomplishment it was that we even got to completing the first goal. We're like, because originally we were like, that's a huge goal. Like, oh my goodness, if I reach that, that's going to be amazing. And then you end up reaching it, you're like, oh, we're way past that now. Who cares? And then what's the next goal? And so I think it's really important to have some sort of mechanism to celebrate the wins. I mean, I've fallen into that too, where it's like you turn back and look, wait, we already passed the goal. You like don't even realize that you hit that goal, but you also need to make sure that you celebrate it. And especially, like, if there's buy-in within the team, you're talking with them, you can understand how you should celebrate. So I'm curious, in terms of wins, have you been celebrating with the team any wins, and how do you celebrate it if you do?
See, and this is something I need to take my own advice because I'm typically fall more under the 10x goal mindset. I mean, I
Yeah.
believe in both, but I tend to fall under that more.
Yep.
Where I'm trying to hit these big numbers and everything, and so sometimes we don't celebrate the wins as much as we should. But I'm trying to work on that because I want the team to feel like we are succeeding at times, even though we're not maybe quite doing the numbers I really want,
Yep.
things like that. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I do need to work on myself.
No,
But
no.
I believe in it. I need to work on it myself though.
No, no, I'm again, I'm a culprit of this, very much so as well. I was gonna laugh if you said that you do pizza parties. I know there's haters in terms of, like, another pizza party that's there, but really, if as you get to know your team, and if that's one of the things that they love, why not do that? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, if they all say, like, oh, I have different means in terms of, like, how I want to celebrate, then that's fine. Then you should listen. You got to have that conversation. But maybe there are people out there that love pizza and they're totally fine with having that, and then like that honestly excites them. So like that's where like by again they're making goals with their team, opening that line of communication between the owner and team. I think that's the only way that allows that progression of like
Yeah, I mean, we have weekly goals and monthly goals and stuff like that, but like I said, most of the time they probably are a little out there just because I have that 10x mindset.
yep.
But I mean, I do things like, hey, if we hit our weekly goal, I give everybody $100. If we hit the monthly goal, I give everybody an extra $500,
Mhm.
sort of thing. So we've hit them here and there, not as much as I want, but we've hit them here and there, and they are super stoked. Well, like at the second shop, so it took over October 30th of last year.
Mhm.
And so it would typically do, it was an existing business for 6 years. They just had no guidance, direction, leadership, anything from the previous owner. He wasn't even in this industry. And so, but they would average 40 to $50,000 months. And um, we, first month, full month taken in, I really wanted to hit 100 grand that month.
Mhm.
And so I told everybody, um, yeah, the end of the month we did just over 100 grand first
Very
month
nice.
of taking over. Everybody was stoked. I mean, everybody got a $500 bonus. They were high fiving, hugging, and I mean, for Christmas they even gave me a little plaque saying thanks for leading us to a record month. And so it's good because it made me feel good that they were bought in. They were as excited as I was.
Mhm.
So because they've never had that before, they never had the somebody that was goal minded, or they never had anybody to kind of lead them and show them a direction to go and give them support that they needed. They just kind of were in survival mode for 6 years.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, I think that already you can just see the difference it's in emotionally for people as well when there's some sort of direction, and yes, you as the owner need to be the leader, but then helping there be even like this that visual goal that can be the leader in and of itself, and it doesn't even need to say anything. It's just a visual that's there that they know that yep, that's where we're going as a reward at the end of the day. But now let's get into adjusting, because obviously yeah, 10x mindset, a lot of us have that, and in terms of like yeah, what is the next big thing, like so how do you go about adjusting in terms of the goals, like in making sure that you're making new ones and feeling like you're making reasonable ones? Like, is it simple as like yeah, 10 times what I did, or is there a different method that you go about adjusting the goals?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I look at everything like if I'm setting goals for the shop, like you know what I want to do each month. I look at a bunch of different reports and projections and stuff like that. I'm looking at previous year's car counts. I'm looking at previous year's sales, and a bunch of different information to kind of come up with a realistic goal and number. Um, but I want to make sure it's doable and achievable, but at the same time still kind of out there a little bit, because I feel like if you do hit that, it's just that much more satisfying.
Yeah.
But then say if we don't achieve it, um, you know, that's like I said, it could be disappointing and depressing and stuff like that if you don't hit those big goals and the big numbers. So then I'll typically look at the next month and I just kind of do the same thing. Hey, I try to do something I feel like is realistic, but still kind of out there a little bit, and then try to put it forth the work and the effort to get it. Okay, do we need more cars this month? Okay, what am I going to do to market? I have a marketing team, Lift Marketing, who can help me do that. I go over the goals. Hey, I need this. I need that. I'm working with the advisors and the technicians, making sure our sales process is down, making sure our the techs are being efficient, things like that. So I try to, if we didn't get it, I just try to figure out why we didn't get it.
Mhm.
And then from there, you can make the necessary adjustments to try to get it the next month. Um, so,
Yeah, a goal should absolutely like stretch your ability. It should not be something you make super easy so that way you can achieve it. There isn't any gratification truly in that process. At least for me, it's like if we made this super tiny goal and then you hit it in a couple days, it's like well, what was the point? And then there's that demotivator in terms of like, oh yeah, that was too easy. There's something about like, I don't know, like when you played like a video game when you were little, and like the first time you're kind of learning it and you're going through this level, and you just kept getting stuck at it, getting stuck at it, getting stuck at it, and like you couldn't you get, but you kept figuring, oh no, there's a different strategy I think I can come up with to pass it finally, and then you pass it, and it was like, holy crap, I passed it. That felt so good. And it's the same thing in terms of like a goal. You want it to be difficult. And if you realize like, yeah, I keep making goals that I'm blowing by, your goals are too easy. It's too small. And so you need to just make something that you're like, oh my god, if we were to really do this, that would be phenomenal. Write that down. Like that's where your kind of head should be around. And then you can just slowly then break it down into pieces, get the team involved. How is their piece of the pie making sense in terms of achieving the greater good? And so I think that I mean, I would recommend people even sitting down with their team, with team members one on one. Hey, start a new year. Let's write down goals for yourself. What do you want? Like
Yeah.
maybe instantly and things like that.
Well,
So
just like I like to, when it comes to pay, I like to ask my teams like, hey, how much money do you want to make? But oh, I'd like to make this much money. Okay, well, let's figure out how to do it. Let's
yeah,
work the numbers backwards. I'm a big fan of working the numbers backwards. So if you want to make this much, if you're a technician and you're getting paid this much, then this is how many hours you need to produce. And then if you work the numbers backwards, they're like, oh, yeah, that's probably doable.
yeah,
Or if you're a gun advisor and they're paid off a commission, it's like, okay, this is what we need to do in GP to get that goal. And so, and then even in life in general, if you want this certain lifestyle, you want to have certain cars, certain houses, certain, be able to travel places and things like that. How much money do you need to live that lifestyle? And then work the numbers backwards. So that's what I've been really trying to do myself, is come figure out all those details. I've even meeting with financial advisor and accountants and everything. And so we could really dial in, okay, this is how much I'm going to need. When do I want to retire by? Okay, if I want to retire, just let's say 10 years, this is how much money I'm going to need to make within the next 10 years to get that much money.
hmm,
This, how much money can each shop produce? And okay, is that enough? If it's not, okay, maybe I need another shop. Maybe I need to add real estate. Maybe I need to do this and that. But if you know the end goal and work backwards, you can come up with a plan versus just having this crazy big 10x goal with no plan.
yeah,
Then obviously, once you have that plan, you have to execute. You have to put forth the effort, and if that drive and desire is big enough, I feel like people can do whatever they want. If you believe it, you can achieve it, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
just like my
absolutely.
sign here, if whatever, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So if you think you can achieve it, you can. But if you tell yourself from the get go that you can't, then you're probably not going to.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think for me, there I quickly realized like there's no dream too big. Like you write it down. That was like another thing I learned from the podcast where they start off with big dreams, and literally it was the husband and wife, and they sat down and it was like, "Okay, there's nothing off limits, like in terms of like what our dreams are. Like, hey, for my wife and I, there's some things that we wrote down in terms of, hey, we wanna own a professional sports team. We want to own a private jet. They're just these things that are just like beforehand. I'd be like, that is just way out there. It's like that's going to take a crazy amount of money. But like if the situation arises and that comes up, it isn't a surprise for either one of us. It's like, yeah, it was something that we talked about as a dream of ours. But obviously, I mean, I'm talking about some of the crazier ones that we definitely wrote down. But there's other ones like we're like, you know what, we want to go on a Disney cruise as a family. Like that's like that was one of our big dreams, and we just did that last year. We did one of our big dreams already, and that was like super cool to be able to like accomplish and achieve. And that was like, in a sense, we were rewarding ourselves for all the little goals that we've done throughout this time to then achieve that big dream. But that wouldn't have been possible if like we didn't talk about it. We didn't write down, we didn't break down like what that needed to look like and things like that. So
But yeah, I mean, it's important to have these um, big goals and dreams and vision. Like, hey, when I retire, this is what I want. But as we talked about, more short-term goals, because obviously, like we were saying earlier, time goes by fast, and tomorrow's not guaranteed.
yeah,
So who knows if there's some unforeseen thing that happens and we're not even around by the time we retire.
mhm,
So with that being said, what are our short-term goals? What do we want to achieve? Do we want to go on a Disney cruise? Do we want to travel to, wherever and do those? Because I think that's super important because we don't know, what is our health going to be like that, in 10, 15, 20 years. So I think it's important to live, the lifestyle we want to live now. And so we got to put forth the effort and achieve those short-term goals. And I feel like those short-term goals are essentially kind of stepping stones to get to our long-term goal.
Yep. And having that, and I think that naturally creates sort of an abundance mindset of like how, like when you feel yourself achieving those goals, you naturally want other people to feel that too. And I think that comes like that easily. I guarantee I can walk into a shop and I can tell if like the owner sets goals for themselves or not. I feel like I can almost guarantee I can walk in and just tell because it'll just kind of they'll have that natural trickle effect to the rest of the team in terms of like, yep, the owner creates goals. They definitely achieve it. They help the team achieve their goals, and then you just see the help like employee morale is how it would affect kind of everything across the board. And who wouldn't want to then work for someone that's creating this culture within the shop for like not only are they like achieving things for themselves, yes, but they're helping everyone in the shop achieve like all their goals. It's like they know what my goal is, they know what his goal is, and like we're going through and like he just finally bought a house and he's been waiting to try to buy a house for forever and never like he wasn't even close. The next thing you know, in a couple of years, boom, it happened because like they the owner took his time, sat down, understood like what he actually wanted, and those things were achieved. And I think that's what I mean. I hope for those listening can understand like that the goals, yes, are really simple at the end of the day. Like it's really simple to literally write down certain things that you want for yourself on a piece of paper. But then turning that execution to reality. That's where
Yeah, that's the hard part.
it
It is nice when you have people who on your team who are bought in, and you might say, hey, this month's goal is going to be, whatever, this amount. And they're like, no, I feel like we can do more. You're
yeah
like, and they want a 10x it. You're like, oh,
yeah
hey, yeah, let's do it. So it's just nice when they're bought into everything at the shop, your vision. They're starting to create their own vision, their own goals, things like that. So I have there's one person in particular that I feel like is kind of like that between the two shops, and um, but it's nice knowing and feeling that they're bought in.
yeah
So because it's like you're sitting there teaching them and growing them into a certain role, and then all of a sudden they're teaching and talking to people and helping them, and you're just like, man, it's like watching myself because they're just saying a lot of the same stuff and doing the same things, and it's kind of fun to watch.
yeah
So, but I mean, ultimately, I want to help everybody on my team to achieve their goals. I mean, I have my goals and visions and everything, and as I said earlier, um, I'd say the majority of my team, they don't set goals, and so I'm trying to get them to. I'm trying to just get them to see the importance of it and the value of it. Because if you do it and you put forth the effort and you track it and adjust as needed and this and that, I mean, you can achieve whatever you want. Just back in the day when it was just me and over 6 years ago, when it's just me and one technician, it was just me and him for what the first 3.5 years. He came to work for me and he was the technician. I worked up front, and I mean he made average of what a technician would make, but now he's making well into these six figures.
mm,
And so I've helped bring him up, and I think he's kind of bought into some of my vision, and he's kind of, and I guess piggybacked off my vision and goals a bit because he's not one to set them himself. But I think the fact that we've gotten to the level we've gotten, it lets him know that it's possible, with hard work and doing things a certain way. So I think that's pretty cool. Because in the beginning, when we opened the shop too, it's like I thought maybe we'd have 3 or 4 people on the team. We're just working out of a 4-bay shop. I thought, I just bought myself a job and this and that. So I never thought we'd get to the point where we are now, where we have 2 shops and I'm not involved in the day to day at either of them. This doesn't say there's not issues and whatnot. I'm still always trying to improve and learn and grow and not only be the best myself, but also have the shop be the best and have all the people that are working here be their best. So it's yeah, it just blows me away to see how far we've come because, like I said, this is why I feel like I'm so passionate about it because in the beginning I didn't ever have that. And so I can see how far we've come. And it's like, holy crap, anything is possible if you just believe it and put forth the effort.
Yeah, success breeds success, and so
Mm-hmm.
the the more you get to taste it, the more you bring that around you, like it is just going to keep kind of happening, and you just be like, before you know it, you're like, oh, like, look how far we've come. But again, like we mentioned, important to recognize those wins and important to execute the results. So again, Travis, thank you so much for being with us today and talking about the goals and whatnot. One thing I always like to bring up, and or maybe have a recommendation from you to the audience, is if you could have them read a book of your choice, what would be your top recommendation for them?
Can I give a couple?
Yeah, you can absolutely give a couple.
So a couple of books I feel like have been the most impactful for me has been 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, Who Not How by the same authors, and then also the Five Major Pieces to the Life Puzzle by Jim Rohn.
Oh, okay. I haven't read that one. So
So it's those are some that really um, have impacted me. And then also Be Your Future Self Now is pretty good too by Benjamin Hardy. I guess I'm a Benjamin Hardy fan.
yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like you're a big fan. So I think it's just gonna need to
So
buy.
I mean, they talk a lot about the stuff
Attention.
that I talked about, and it's kind of helped me um, basically create in my mind of what I want and let me believe. I don't know. I just started to think a lot more about all this stuff after reading these books.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty impactful, and I feel like it's ultimately changed my life. Like I said, I thought I bought myself a job, and here we are. I
We
have two
are.
shops and not working the day to day, and I
Yeah.
take off. I'm gone usually a couple months throughout the year. So
Very, very cool. Well, again, thank you so much, Travis, for being on with us today. For those that maybe want to reach out to you, and if they want to be like, hey, I want to learn more about how it is you really create the goals and what the structure looks like or anything like that. Like, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
um, I don't know, just wherever. I mean, I'm always willing to help anybody and talk. I love talking business and stuff. So I mean, you can just email me at Travis at leavittautomotive.com. That's probably the easiest. So go ahead and email me and let's talk.
Perfect. All right, Travis. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. For those again still watching, if you haven't liked or subscribed already, please do so below. But I'm Kelsey Osher, Leavitt Auto Repair Marketing. Talk to you guys later. Bye.